Cursor wants to know about the gas stove, so let's go to it. This is a Fox News hit about gas stoves.
Bill Cassidy, the Louisiana Republican senator, Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee, Finance Committee.
Bill Cassidy is a dumb motherfucker.
Crucial committee. He's kind enough to join us. Senator, what can we do about this? Obviously, this was a unique problem, I understand. But we haven't seen anything like it since 9/11. It had a lot of folks very nervous. What do you think?
Well, I'm struck. They can't control the border. They can't keep planes flying. But by golly, you're not going to use gas to cook.
That is a good point. I wanted to pick your brain on that gas stove thing, but on this, you know, I know a good chunk of those infrastructure funds from the legislation were marked for airline advance.
Now, what they're talking about is that there was a recent study that dropped that apparently attributes childhood asthma, about 12% of childhood asthma, to gas stoves. 1 in 8 cases of asthma in the U.S. caused by gas stove pollution, according to a study. Emission of toxic chemicals and carcinogens from gas stoves, creating indoor pollution worse than car traffic. About 1 in 8 cases of asthma in children in the U.S. is due to the pollution given off by cooking on gas stoves. New research has found, amid moves by Joe Biden's administration to consider the regulation or even banning of gas cookers and the sale to Americans. Now, this is probably going to be like, we've seen some cities move to ban gas stoves, but it's like a phasing out issue, right? Like, it's not like the government's going to come and pull your gas stove out. It's that they're going to require the sale of gas stoves to be phased out. So like in Canada, where they're wanting to phase out internal combustion engines. It's a phasing thing that takes place over like, the next 15 years or something. So the Biden administration is considering banning gas stoves, and this would be like a for regular households, because like I guess there's a case to be made that you might want to still cook on a gas stove in a restaurant, because restaurants tend to prefer gas stoves, I believe, because they, you know, get hotter. They're faster, that sort of thing. Research has repeatedly found the emissions of toxic chemicals and carcinogens from gas stoves, even when they are turned off, is creating a miasma of indoor pollution that can be several times worse than the pollution experienced outdoor from car traffic and heavy industry. New study has now sketched out the risk being posed to children exposed to pollutants such as nitrogen dioxide that spews from the stoves, finding that 12.7% of all current cases of childhood asthma in the U.S. are due to the use of gas stoves. So, what we have is findings that say that gas stoves are more dangerous for your children than drag queens. Fox News and the rest of right-wing assholes who have been all upset about drag queens and your children think that gas stoves are no big deal.
Let's go to Bill Cassidy, the Louisiana Republican senator, Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee, Finance Committee. He's on all the crucial committees. Kind enough to join us. Senator, what can we do about
Gordon, what's going on, my friend?
It's a unique problem, I understand. We haven't seen anything like it since 9/11. It had a lot of folks very
Kellen, I believe I know who you are now that I see the rest of your name.
They can't control the border. They can't keep planes flying. But by golly, you're not going to use gas to cook.
That is a good point. I wanted to pick your
We're laughing about childhood asthma. Ah, ha, 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 ha.
brain on that gas stove thing, but on this, you know, I know a good chunk of those.
Imagine if Fox News was around in the 70s. Asbestos isn't bad for your children. Ha 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 ha. Lead paint isn't going to affect your children's development. Ah ha 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 ha.
Structure funds from the legislation were marked for airline advancements and upgrades, and for the FAA, it's a little naive of me to think that that money would already be spent and put to work, but it's certainly called for, isn't it?
My children smoke asbestos.
Should have redundancy, and the more important the system, the more redundancy should be built into it. The idea that when I read is that there was a systems update that did not work. Ideally, systems.
I thought we were talking about gas stoves.
You would update one, you'd keep the other running, you'd make sure that it was running well, and if not, you'd go to the redundant one, and then you would update the redundant one. Either their systems are bad.
Microplastics aren't going to hurt anything.
There is really no excuse for a 3-hour shutdown affecting thousands and thousands of flights in the United States of America.
I'm just wondering as well, Senator, what it's going to do about people who are thinking of flying between this today, all the problems with Southwest before, and before them Frontier, and before them virtually everyone, it seemed, in the summer with all...
Man, you want to talk about the downfalls of flying and the horrors of the airline industry. We can go back. This didn't just start recently, and I think it might have to do something with union busting with the airlines, mergers to where there's 8 less airlines than there were 20 years ago.
All the difficulties and long lines that people might think twice about flying in general. That could have clear economic implications. Are you worried?
It could, but frankly, Americans have become so used to commuting by airplane. I imagine.
I'll go with Porg, and you're incredibly horny tonight. I will go with Cassidy's tie is nice. I like Bill Cassidy's tie.
For this to happen, but on the other hand, this is an unforced error. There is no reason why the federal government should not have redundancy in their systems. Any CEO of a company that's well run would have had that, and those who don't end up getting rightfully criticized.
Buddy, I don't think we have a well-run company in this country.
The buck has to stop with him.
All right, let's talk a little bit about this gas stove thing, because it's a bit of a leap to sort of ban their sales outright. And I'm just wondering what Republicans plan to do about that.
It would be a phasing out.
First, in Louisiana, we use gas to make roux for our gumbos and our etouffees. And so it actually does cook in a superior fashion, according to my wife, and she's the...
I believe there are pros and cons as someone who cooks, and just recently got my first exposure to a gas stove. I've not cooked all that much on it. But there are pros and cons to gas stoves and electric stoves. I believe electric stoves, their surface cooks more evenly than a gas stove.
That's right. But one of your interviewers, he pointed out that this is really a backdoor way to go after natural gas. Let's just strip it away. Let's just take away the childhood asthma kind of, yeah, right. No, this is their kind of, what can we do to inhibit the role of
you gotta love childhood asthma, no big deal. You gotta love how he just brushes it off.
Gas in our economy, even though because we in the United States have used natural gas instead of coal, we've actually decreased our emissions down to less than the emissions we had in 2005, despite a bigger economy, more people, and more manufacturing. This administration can't control the border. They can't take care of the airplanes, but by golly, they're going to go after fossil fuel. And I think that's the way you have to approach this. And it's going to damage the rest of the economy, but I'm not sure they care.
I don't. I do not give a shit about your economy. Do not give a shit. I give a shit about, children's health. I give a shit about workers' rights. Because economy just means how rich people are doing. So you're right. I do not give two shits about the economy. Have you heard the freaking news? YouTube, Facebook, and all of big tech are trying to do a cancel culture on JustinFREAKIN.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
Help the channel stay alive and grow by subscribing or following, and be sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the fun, even when one platform tries to shut us up.
He's kicking authority in the balls.
If you have it to spare and really want to show support, consider subbing on Twitch, becoming a patron, or a member on YouTube. You'll get access to extra delights and debauchery, and you'll have my eternal appreciation. Thank you for being a freaking follower, and have a great freaking day.